If you've ever read an account of Stoic philosophy, you've likely read Plutarch. For centuries, his writings served as the historical bedrock for Stoic ethics, preserving the maxims of antiquity's most famous philosophical school. Because so much of what we know about early Stoicism comes directly from his surviving texts, one of antiquity's fiercest anti-Stoic critics. Yet, at the exact same time, he aggressively mined their doctrines, lifting their most effective ethical tools to build his own framework. He authored exhaustive, highly technical treatises engineered specifically to dismantle Stoic logic and physics from the ground up. To understand Plutarch is to examine a hostile auditor, a thinker who stripped a rival school of its workable parts to forge a highly pragmatic system of his own. In Hellenistic Athens, philosophical schools were not polite debate clubs. They were fierce ideological camps where intellectual rivalries dictated civic and moral life. The Orthodox Stoics demanded absolute dogmatic loyalty to their interconnected triad of logic, physics, and ethics. To accept one part meant accepting the entire theoretical architecture. The founders of the Stoa viewed their system as an uncompromising all-or-nothing proposition. You were either perfectly rational or completely flawed. Plutarch approached this landscape with a different set of priorities. Writing centuries later, his Platonist methodology prioritized civic utility over strict theoretical purity. He launched his attacks using the most effective ammunition available, the Stoics' own primary texts, turning their exact arguments against them. He utilized these arguments to rescue practical daily morality from an obsession with theoretical perfection. We see this attack clearest in his scathing text on Stoic self-contradictions. Plutarch methodically indicted the Stoic leadership for failing their own tests. The realities of how they actually lived were entirely divorced from the dogmas they wrote down. He aimed his sharpest criticism at Chrysippus, the prominent head of the Stoic school and one of its most prolific writers. Chrysippus published volumes insisting that a wise man must engage in politics, yet he spent his entire life insulated in the academy, deliberately detached from actual public service. For Plutarch, the internal logic of a treatise meant nothing if the author couldn't execute it. A philosopher must be judged by their actions. By shattering the illusion of the flawless Stoic sage, Plutarch exposed their theoretical system as unlivable in the real world. This behavioral critique was rooted in a much deeper technical rupture between the two schools regarding the architectural structure of the human mind. The orthodox Stoic doctrine argued for a single, unified, purely rational soul. In their view, emotions were simply cognitive errors, bad judgments that needed to be corrected. This logic led to their ultimate goal of apatheia, the total extirpation and removal of all passions from the human experience. Plutarch rejected this, defending the Platonic model. He argued the soul is bipartite, featuring a distinct division between rational thought and a separate emotional drive. Plutarch championed metriopathia, the strict moderation and management of the passions, as a direct alternative to Stoic apatheia. He argued that attempting to completely eradicate human emotion is practically impossible and a direct violation of human nature itself. He redefined virtue as the active management of human flaws rather than their impossible deletion. Once he had dismantled their theoretical architecture, Plutarch began his massive constructive project, the essays collected in the Moralia. Here, he salvaged the most useful Stoic maxims, stripping away their dense metaphysical baggage to leave behind clean, actionable advice. Plutarch operated on a specific principle. Philosophy functions as a physician of the mind, diagnosing and treating behavioral ailments directly. He prescribed specific Stoic concepts, like emotional self-sufficiency, unwavering civic duty, and gentleness amidst hostility, as daily treatments. These weren't exercises for academics in isolation. He repurposed these maxims specifically for active statesmen, judges, and military generals navigating high-stakes conflicts. Plutarch successfully hacked the Stoic framework. He discarded a rigid theology and extracted an adaptable toolkit for public service. This hacked version of Stoicism arrived exactly when and where it was needed, the rapidly expanding Roman Empire. Roman administrative elites prioritized actionable behavioral frameworks to govern effectively over endless Greek metaphysical debates. Plutarch's essays functioned as direct instruction manuals for these political operators, offering precise guidelines on managing anger, political ambition, and public discord. He provided leaders with Platonic moderation to temper their own power, combined with Stoic endurance to survive the pressures of managing a sprawling, complex state. This eclectic pragmatism provided the exact moral software the Roman state required to maintain its internal stability. This synthesis cements Plutarch's identity as the ultimate eclectic moralist. He rejected the harsh Stoic binary, which claimed a person 1 inch below the surface is drowning just as surely as someone a mile deep. Instead, he redefined ethical development as a steady movement along a continuous scale. Under this model, deeply flawed individuals can achieve, measure, and celebrate small, daily ethical victories. Morality becomes an ongoing journey of incremental improvement, rather than an impossible switch you flip or fail. Which brings us back to exactly why we continue to study Plutarch alongside the very Stoic founders he spent his life criticizing. He serves as the ultimate historical stress test for their doctrines. His hostile audits forced high-minded Stoic theories down to earth, making them answer to the messy realities of Roman statecraft and actual human emotion. The version of Stoicism that survived to shape Western thought was heavily filtered through Plutarch's pragmatic lens. Plutarch acted as the pragmatic architect who ensured the most functional elements of Stoicism survived antiquity.